Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 49 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today is amazing. Seriously. In this episode, I talked to the great Sherry Thomas, who is, in fact, down to earth and amazing. And I definitely fangirl on this one. She is a romance writer who takes the art and form of writing romance to new levels. She will blow your mind if you have not read her. She is so fantastic, so intelligent, so exciting. She can write scenes with so much excitement and passion, and these fight scenes, you've got to read them to believe them. They are absolutely amazing. I am a huge fan, and I make that real clear in this interview. So I know you're going to enjoy that. She was great. And what's happening in my world? I'm nervous. My thriller's out on submission, and I won't know for at least a little while longer, maybe a lot longer. And I have those kind of butterflies and this strange feeling of just kind of being stuck in mud. And I think I've told you this before, but yeah. So I'm anxious to get moving again. I'm working on two other projects, trying to really kind of center myself on one. I'm reading the book Growing Gills by Jessica Abel, who will be interviewed here on this podcast soon. I am excited to say. And it's really all about creativity and choosing the right projects to work on, prioritizing, making sure things happen. And I'm really enjoying that. I'm kind of going a little bit deep into my processes, the way I work. That's really fun and nice, and I'm trying not to be nervous. I'm also just trying to have fun, which I have been having. Last week, I managed to go see Hamilton and Wonder Woman, which is better. Well, okay, Hamilton, but Wonder Woman was also very good. Went kayaking. Kayaking was a blast. We bought some inflatable kayaks, which, if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen me raving about. $69 on Amazon. Yo, inflatable kayaks for the win. We went out on the estuary. We had such a fantastic time. It was just a very active, very busy weekend, and we even went to a climbing gym with my nephew, and then had fun there. And that's my problem today, because a climbing gym is also a climbing germ gym, and so some kid bug got me. So I'm a little bit stuffed up and just in a groggy kind of sore throat mood. So I'm going to keep this very short and let you get into the incredible interview with Sherry Thomas. I know that you're going to enjoy this as much as I did in interviewing her. So, just a word of thanks to all my Patreon subscribers, supporters. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It really makes the difference. It means that you believe in me as a creator. It also means you get those essays on creativity. And thank you to new patrons, The Housewife with a YFE, very Chaucerian. And thank you to Olivia Helling. Thanks so much for becoming new patrons. It really means the world to me. So off you go, off to enjoy the interview. I'm going off to bed. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Well, I could not be more excited today to have Sherry Thomas on the podcast with me today. She's smiling because I am just trying not to fangirl and gush all over her. But hello, Sherry.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Let me give a little introduction for the very few people who might not know who you are. Sherry Thomas is one.
Oh, believe me, I don't ever expect anybody to know who I
In
am.
my world, you are a superstar. Sherry Thomas is one of the most acclaimed historical romance authors writing today, winning the RITA Award 2 years running and appearing on innumerable best of the year lists, including those of Publishers Weekly, Kirkus Reviews, Library Journal, Dear Author, and All About Romance. She lives in Austin, Texas with her husband and sons. And I will just add that in my last romance class at Berkeley, I included Not Quite a Husband, which was the 2010 Rita winner. That was an assigned text that my students had to read. So
Okay.
you can now add to your resume that you were being taught at Berkeley.
I did not know that. When you said you were teaching at Berkeley, I thought Berkeley, the publisher.
Berkeley, the UC, the extension.
All
so,
right.
Yeah.
Good for those UC Berkeley students, I say, to be taught romance.
I really agree. I really, really agree. And I have to tell you just my quick little story about how I came to your work. I published my first romance with HarperCollins, and it was one of those, it was my first finished book. I'd been trying, obviously, for 10 years to write a book, but it was my first finished book. It was an accident that I got story structure correct, as we just internalized story structure, and I got it right the first try. And then, of course, I had a contract to write the second book, and I failed miserably, and I turned in...
Hey, sounds like my story.
I loved hearing you at RWA last year as the keynote speaker. But so I turned in this book, and I realized after my editor got back to me and said, you actually need a plot, Rachel. It's good writing, but you need a plot. And then I was suddenly thrust into this intensive story structure workshop of my own making, and I asked her for books, and she recommended you to me. And I just remember... it went two ways. Number one, I was so excited to see story structure in such a phenomenally, beautifully written way. But on the other hand, I was like, oh crap, I can't do this. I can't write like Sherry Thomas. But then you became my favorite.
I don't know which book you're referring to, but I think
I think that was Not Quite a Husband.
Let me tell you later my problem with structure.
Tell me now.
Tell you now, I think one of your questions that you sent ahead of time was like, what's the most important writing advice anybody gave you?
Yes, please tell me.
That I couldn't think of it for a while then, because then I realized it's because it's so fundamental. I had like absorbed it so much that I have forgotten it as a piece of writing advice. It was just like, it became like, a commandment by then. Which is what my first editor told me in great frustration. That, stories need a spine. Which is exactly the same problem, probably what you had.
It is exactly. I had no spine.
Yes.
I had many good characters, and they had interesting conversations.
There's an interesting setup. My books always start with an interesting setup. And then it kind of just like run out of steam somewhere. I wrote Private Arrangement twice. I don't know whether that's a book your editor gave you.
That might have been it, actually. I thought it was Not Quite a Husband.
So looking back, I realized upon rewriting it, I wrote it when I was much younger. And then 5 years later, found it in a box somewhere in the house and decided, wow, it's terrible. But I'm still taken with a core story idea. So I said, I'm going to burn this down to the ground and start from scratch, saving nothing except the characters' names and their original setup, which is that of, because I read so many books where the hero thinks the heroine did something terrible, but she's really this innocent lamb. And I was like, what if I had somebody who really does something terrible?
Yes.
Yeah, so that, when he thinks she's done something horrible, she actually has done something rather unforgivable. So the setup was always like that. But in the first book, in the first iteration, it was a road trip. In the first iteration, it was, first of all, chronologically written. So like the actual reunion didn't start until 150 pages in. And then they go on a road trip to Austria, because I like sound of music, and I'll keep wondering why nobody ever set books, historical romances in Austria. And it was like, the reason they got together for that road trip was just kind of accident. She was already on a road trip, and they met somehow. So you can see this is there's no spine to that story, which is a series of events and coincidences and people interacting. And I accidentally got it right the second time. When I wrote it again, without quite realizing it, I got it right. And then came, as you said, the contract, the second book. Yeah. The first draft of the second book, when I turned it in, I was thinking to myself, it might be slightly problematic. But what I did not expect was a 16-page, single-space editorial letter.
Oh, God.
After that, I chucked the whole thing and started again.
That's what I did.
The second time it was okay for the first half, not okay for the second half. So the second half went down again. I probably threw out like 300,000 words for that. Yeah, and it also coincided with the year I was in grad school. So it was like all like
Oh my gosh. But don't you feel like, I actually feel that really did, in a, in the cliched way, it really did make me a better writer. I do understand the underpinnings of that spine now.
I accidentally reread that book recently. I didn't mean to, but it came up somehow, and I was like, let me check this a little bit, and that was delicious. So by the time I got to the end, I was like, wow, it's like really good for 3/4 of the book, and then all the various plot points were coming together, and I was like, that's too much plot at the end of the book.
I have never reread one of my books.
Uh,
I can't imagine when I'm going to.
Some of them reread better than others. Not Quite a Husband rereads very well for me.
I've read that so many times.
Because when I read it, I'm like, I know I wrote it, but I don't remember writing it.
Oh, that's nice.
It all seems like somebody else wrote it for me. And His at Night was the one on which because we had so much trouble with every book, His at Night was the one that I keep showing her partials to in the hope to avoid this problem. Yeah. No, we had a huge showdown at the end also. It was bad. It was bad. Like my critique partner had to stay up all night with me because I was rewriting it frantically and sending it to her, and toward dawn I think I lost my mind. And it was on the last chapter, and I didn't know what I was doing, and the heroine was like peeing behind a bush, and she finally wrote me. She's like, "Stop, go sleep for some time."
Go get a nap. I always write right up to deadline, and my epilogues, when I get them back in copy edits, I don't ever remember writing them. They're brand new, fresh, because I always write them when I'm so tired. Yeah, I love that feeling.
It happens sometimes when you go, I don't remember writing this, but it seems to be all right, so maybe I'll keep it.
Exactly, when it surprises you. So what is the best time of day for you to write, and where do you write?
Ideally, I like to write between 2:00 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock, which is what in the Chinese call the middle shift. But I have family, I have children. They're very old now, but they used to be young children, and that was not a good time to write. So I had to write either earlier or later. And earlier I get distracted, and later I get sleepy. So I remember when I was rewriting Not Quite a Husband, the first draft was so bad that my editor said, if you cannot fix this in 3 weeks, we're going to have to, you will lose your publication spot. And you wouldn't get another one for another year.
Oh my God.
And winter break for the kids, and my husband took them to their grandma's place. So for 2 weeks straight, I was home alone, writing. And yeah, those were the time I wrote. I wrote from after lunch to after dinner. And it was like a fabulous block of writing time, which I've never had consistently since.
But that's what it is.
I know that's what it is. That would be the best time to write.
And where do you write mostly?
I write at home. I write
almost.
Yeah. I don't really have an office, so it depends on my physical condition. Sometimes, if my back is fine, I'll be writing, on couches and stuff. If my back is not so good, I'll be writing on a hard chair.
And how do you write? Do you write first drafts on the computer? Are you longhand at all?
I have a paperless operation.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's always on the laptop. Yeah.
And do you
never
edit on the laptop too?
I edit on the laptop. It depends on my publisher. If they send me a physical galley, I will do the last round on the paper. But if they don't send it, then I read it off my computer. I never print anything out unless somebody else prints it for me.
That's me too. Mostly because my printer is always broken or out of toner or something.
I have wrestled with my printer for many years running because I print promo stuff myself. And let me tell you, I finally, for my 20th anniversary last year, I told my husband to get me a continuous ink printer.
What is that?
That is something you can get at Costco. I don't know if they're available elsewhere, but it definitely can get it at Costco. And that is a printer with tank with 4 separate tanks instead of cartridges, because anyway, otherwise I try to refill the cartridges, and it's a pain in the ass to refill the cartridges.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah. But eliminate the cartridges altogether. They can print 10,000 pages before they need refilling.
That
Look
is
it up.
cool.
Look it up. Epson ET4550.
I love it. I might need one for my birthday.
I love it so much. I love it so much. It's like, my favorite piece of electronics in the house. I mean, I love my laptop. It's necessary for work, but it's been a good laptop for a long time. But this replacement printer is like, it's the best thing ever.
So that has inkwells that you refill. Segueing into my next question, how do you refill the creative well for yourself when you're running dry?
I think one reason I don't run out of it is because, first of all, I don't write a lot. By today's standards, especially given the pace people self-publishing are writing, I'm writing nothing at all. I think for 3 years running, I did 2 books a year, and then for the past year and a half, maybe it's just 1 book a year. So that's like my well is full. I'm currently trying to get more contracts so that, because contract help you allocate time.
Yes, definitely.
So first of all, I'm not writing that much, which is why my well is not depleted. Second of all, anybody with a cursory glance at my work will see that I have done everything, not everything under the sun, but I've written so many things. In romance, I've written historical, contemporary, mostly historical, but I have written contemporary, and I have written one erotic novella. Mm-hmm. And in this upcoming anthology, I tackle yet another subgenre of romance. And I've written 3 young adult fantasy books for my YA publisher, HarperCollins, who's used to be yours. And right now I'm writing a historical mystery.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm writing a female Sherlock Holmes.
There's a lot of discussion about whether that hurts or helps your readership when you kind of split your genres like that. What have you seen in your own experience?
I haven't the slightest idea, to tell you the truth.
I don't either. I write in 3 genres and going into a 4th, and I can't tell.
I mean, if it has hurt me tremendously, I don't know. If it has helped me tremendously, I don't know. If I don't know, I figure that's good enough. and all these are with like traditional publishers, so I'm like, if it's really bad, they'll tell me. If I haven't said anything, I'll do whatever I want.
I like your style, Sherry.
It's that's in one area. I feel that my degree is in accounting, so in many ways I feel that I am very practical, very not temperamental at all. But in this one thing, I feel like I will allow myself to be, artistic and temperamental, in that I will write stuff that interests me rather than stuff I have to slog to write. I think it shows. I feel like slogging isn't always the worst thing, because, after I wrote my first 4 historical romance, I was already telling my agent, maybe I should stop. I'm not getting up much fresh ideas. But then I signed a contract for 3 more, and I wrote Ravishing the Heiress, and I was like, you know what? I'll take it. Even though I didn't want to write anymore, I'll take Ravishing the Heiress because that's good, and I like it myself. But after that, my 7th book had a amnesia plot. And I'm like, I am against realistic amnesia. Means amnesia set in the real world as a plot. I am against it in principle. So I've always said, if you're somebody who's against writing amnesia plot and you have nowhere to go but an amnesia plot, then you should stop. You should stop before you really jump the shark. My next 2 books that came after, I feel are both some of my best works, but they are older. They are books I've already written once, in my unpublished days. So they're not new. They're not new. They're just like stuff I pulled out from underneath the bed and reworked and handed in. So when I had nothing left to give to historical romance, I stopped writing historical romance. But now that I've been away from it for a couple of years, and I wrote this romance in the upcoming anthology, I said to myself, wow, I really love writing romance. Maybe I'll be more serious about, coming up with a historical romance, because I love writing romance. It's just that for a while I ran out of juice and I didn't want to force myself. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you naturally take care of yourself then, and you naturally take care of filling that well.
I think so. Yeah. I think one of the questions you ask is that, on your worst days, on your bad days, do you wish you had done a different career? Yeah. I was like, no, there are no bad days. I mean, there's some days you feel like you could have had a more remunerative career.
Yeah.
Because I was an accountant. I was thinking to myself, well, if I stayed in accounting, 10 years, is it 10 years? No, it's almost 11 years since I got my degree now. Like if I've been working 11 years, by now I'll be close to making partner. And if you make partner, you're like rolling in dough. Instead of the piddly sums we had to fight for. So sometimes I go, wow, is it too late for me to go back to it?
I like what you say about the slogging though, and not on the one hand not wanting to do it, but on the other hand understanding that every single book that we write, right around the 2/3 to the 3/4 mark, it becomes a slog anyway.
Yeah, it's terrible.
We have to.
It's all terrible. Yeah,
it's all terrible, and then it gets better eventually.
Yeah. I accepted this long ago. So when my friends complain about it, I was like, "You're still complaining about it?" She's like she feels insulted by the process every time the process begins anew. And I've made my peace with it long ago. It's just going to suck. It's just going to suck no matter what I do.
That brings me peace. I have come to the same thing. There are many days that I hate doing the writing, but I don't hate it so much that it gets in my way. I just hate it and I sit down and then I accidentally have some fun. It just happens.
I have this faith somewhere that somehow it's going to turn out okay. It's like Fear in Love. That theater guy was like, it somehow works. I don't know how, but somehow it works.
I always get to that point where it's not going to work this time, and then I just have faith it will work, and it works. It does.
Yeah, it just go do something else. Get on Netflix and
then come back later. Yeah,
come back later. Let your subconscious do the work.
I really believe in the subconscious doing that, helping us out that way.
Sorry. Yes, I am a shower writer.
Are you?
Well, when I'm in my shower, is suddenly when the story's kink start working out itself.
Have you seen the aqua notes that you can purchase and put in the shower, and they're waterproof?
No, I have not seen such things.
Oh my gosh, I have an extra one that I didn't give away at a retreat. I'll get your address after we're off the call, and I'll send it to you. You'll love it.
Send it. I will love it, but I will never use it because that's I.
You know what's funny is that your family starts using it and they start writing pictures and notes to each other. It's pretty funny.
That's like, wow, the stuff that exists in this world.
I know. Okay, so what secret writing tip of awesomeness did you discover the hard way?
You mean besides give it a spine?
Yes. Yeah, if there is something.
If there's something that I discovered the hard way, no, just that.
Okay.
That stories need a structure. Nowadays, I kind of don't start a story at just at a scenario level.
Premise,
I don't go, ooh, this sounds cute. And I kind of know who these characters are and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't start there anymore, which is why I don't start many books.
Would that be your craft tip also? Or do you have a separate craft tip of any sort?
Oh, craft tip on the smaller level. Yeah, I have different ones. Like, because I actually give a lot of craft talk, though never on structure. But this fall, I'm actually somebody asked me to give a talk on structure. And I have been emailing a friend and I was like, I don't know anything about structure. She said, yeah, that is so true. That is so true.
That's a good friend.
I cannot tell you the turning point of a book, if it came and hit me upside the head.
But they happen in your books. You just naturally put them in there.
I guess I know how to do them, but I don't know how to talk about them. So, and I sometimes write plot-heavy books too.
You do. You definitely do.
But I do. My tip that I would give to other people if they're looking for tips on how to write character, it's like my number one tip is enter through pain, because pain is private. Pain is secret. You let people know right away what is their pain, and you're done.
That just blew my mind, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've never heard it said so simply.
I learned it from reading Andre Agassi's autobiography, because we all think a memoir. He didn't write. I think he wrote a memoir. I think we all think we know who Andre Agassi is, right? And the first page in that memoir, he rolls out of bed and he can barely stand up because he's under so much physical pain. And then he tells you that he hates tennis, that he has always hated tennis. And then you go well, I know your physical pain. I know your emotional pain. I want to know how you did it all this year. So then you just read straight always. And that's when I realized enter via pain.
I love that. I always enter via shame, which I think is peripherally connected.
It's the same.
Yeah.
If shame is the major pain for you, then that is.
Which I think it is for many, many people, at least all of my characters, and even all of the people living in my head. If you were starting over as a new writer right now, what advice would you give yourself as a brand new writer?
I don't know. I'm really glad I'm not starting out as a new writer now, because I think looking at how it is, I'll be like freaking out, as in running around the room, just screaming my head off.
There's so much information.
Yeah, there's so much information. There's so much competition. It's all overload, and the amount of it's just the amount of competition that's out there. Before, you only have to worry about getting past that one gatekeeper, which is your old-fashioned publisher, in their ivory towers in New York. And now it's there's no gatekeeper, and you can do a million things for yourself, right?
I am so glad I didn't have to make those choices. I wrote my first book by myself with no community. I had never been to an RWA meeting. I didn't know anyone. My first book was published via the slush pile from an agent's desk. I didn't know the agent. I knew nothing. And now what would I have done?
I was the same way because I mean, I'm always the kind of person who, if I don't know anything, then I will follow other people's advice. And in the beginning, I didn't know anything about publishing. One book I read about publishing actually advised me to join RWA after finishing my first book.
Oh, how smart.
So that, I don't know why. I cannot remember why now.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's the reason they gave. But that's what I did. After I finished my first book, I joined my local chapter, not before. Yeah. So it was all done in isolation, and it was which is a bad and good and bad, because isolation means you cannot check the advice you're given. And when I started writing romance, my wonderful sister-in-law bought me a book published by RT. I think it was actually Romantic Times. Basically, it's a book on how to write romance. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, what I did not realize was that book was 10, 15 years out of date. She bought it at the bookstore, so it's new to her. It's new to me. So but what happened was, it told me that a historical romance should be 120,000 words long.
Holy crap.
Back then, that was how long they were, right? But by the time, even 10 years ago when I was writing, it wasn't.
Right.
15 years ago when I started, it had already come down a lot. And so what happened was, I finished my book. It was only 95,000 words long. So I said, needs another plot twist, obviously. And by the time I was done with that plot turn, it was 140,000 words long.
Oh my God. So
when I queried, and I said, this is, how long it is, and an agent sent back, said, I'm interested in seeing this, but 140 is way too long. You should keep it under, 100K. So then I was like, all right. So I took out all the extra stuff, I tacked on it, and it was like 95K. And so that's what I'm telling you. We were so ignorant back then. We knew nothing, absolutely nothing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's a kind of mistake that you are unlikely to make now if you are with everything. But then the thing is, there's so much information. I think your head is going to explode if you don't have a strong filter as saying, this is going to work for me, this is not going to work for me. So I guess if I really were to advise somebody starting new, it would be, it's kind of the same. Focus on the writing and my God, good luck. Right. So starting for folks starting new now, it would just be it's a trial and error process, and there's no getting around it. And the main thing is be kind of cheap. Don't spend too much money on promotion and stuff.
I love that.
And work on your craft. In the end, now that we see Amazon keeps tweaking its algorithm, you cannot hope to just put a book out there and have it take off anymore. So it's in a way it's kind of back to the it's a Wild West, but it's kind of back to the same old Wild West we knew.
I agree.
Which is that you still have to get other people excited about your books.
Yeah.
For it to have for you to have a career. It's now again back down to, people have to hear some word of mouth because everybody's Kindle is filled up with free and 99-cent books. I
really like that you said that. I hadn't thought about that, but we are back to that same method.
Yeah, you need other people to be excited about you. You need readers to want to tell other readers about your book. I think those gold rush days are over. I was very sad, never to have any any gold rush era, but it was like but right now it's a landscape that's actually kind of familiar
and comforting in a way. We just have to write. We have to write good books and get the word out.
It's but I'm still sad that I didn't make bank during.
I always tell the story that there was one RWA probably 7 years ago. I had lunch with my friend Bella Andre. And she said to me, she goes, Rachel, I just put up a couple of books online, my old backlist, and I made like $100. And this month I made even more, and you should do it. And I said, no, I don't need to do that.
The problem was I didn't have backlist books at the time.
I didn't either. Yeah.
So it was like, so, I mean, I think it's wonderful for her that, that she was able to do everything she was able to do during the time. And I was like, oh, Bella, But sometimes I ask myself, sometimes I think, oh my God, I want to have had this other person's career or this other person's, but then, then I say to myself, okay, no, you can never have somebody's career. You basically have to have their whole shebang.
Yes.
And I'm like, I mean, what do I want to give up? Because you go, oh, what wouldn't I give to have that kind of success? So I said, actually, no, what would I give? Would I give my health? No. Would I give my family? No. Would I give my house? No. The only thing I would give is maybe half my closet, these are the clothes I'm not interested in anymore. But, what could I get for that? So in the end, I have to be pretty happy with what I have.
I like my shebang. You like your shebang. This is the shebang I want to keep.
Yes.
The Sherry Thomas shebang.
Try some clothes I'm no longer wearing.
Okay, tell us where listeners can find you. What would you like to tell us about right now? Anything?
I'm sorry, where
readers can find you online.
My website is sherrythomas.com, and I'm Sherry Thomas on Twitter, and author Sherry Thomas on Facebook or something like that. You can find me on all the vendors. That's the more important thing.
That is the more important thing, yes.
I'm not too many places. Yeah.
When is your next book coming out?
My next book is an interesting project. It's an anthology called Sight Unseen, which is the brainchild of Judith at Open Press Inc. And it's an anthology with 5 romance authors, but none of us are writing what we normally write.
That's exciting.
Yes, and the thing is, our names will be on the book, but our names are not attached to our stories.
Oh, that's wild.
Readers have to read and kind of guess who wrote what.
Oh, I love that.
So it's a test of, if you think you love this author, can you actually recognize their work without their name on it?
That is a dirty, delicious trick.
That's what I think also, which is why I jumped into it. So it'll be out June 6th, which is next Tuesday. And
perfect. And this podcast will be out next week, so I will make sure I have all the links up.
And it's called Sight Unseen. And I'm very excited about it because I really love my contribution, and I want to see if people can tell it's me.
Well, it's a game, and I'm absolutely going to hit the one-click buy, and I'm going to see if I can figure it out.
I hope you will. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sherry. You have made my day and my week.
It's been wonderful. It's been so much fun.
Such a pleasure to talk with you.
Good luck with everything, and keep on with the podcast.
Thank you, and thanks for the inspiration that you give me as a writer. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Sherry.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.